All right, let's do another drunken Q&A. And tonight we're drinking a little bit of red wine and a little bit of whiskey, a little Jameson whiskey, as per usual. First, got a couple personal disclosure questions. One being, what do I do for work? And another being, why do you make videos? Um, what do I do for work? Currently, I am unemployed right now and have been so for the past 2 or 3 years now. And by choice, but also by necessity more so than anything else. It's when we had our kids, when we started having kids, both my parents worked, my whole adolescent life, and because of that, we'd only see them really around dinner time at night and whatever. Everything else, I was influenced more so by media and pop culture, not pop culture, not poppy shit, but popular opinion, let's say, things like that, by peer pressure, etc., etc. So I saw the flaw in that. Even though my parents were great parents, are great parents, they just got caught in the rat race. They both had to work, and they felt this is what they needed to do for their own careers and to provide for their family. So I saw the flaw in that, or at least the holes in that. So one of my goals was always to have at least a parent at home when we had kids. And when it comes to what parent would be at home, well, first we had kids, and it really got to the age around, I guess, my daughter, who's the oldest, who's 10 now, but maybe around, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe even a little before that. I got out of the workforce, so to be able to focus more on raising the kids and instilling morals and giving the kids a proper way forward and understanding of life and everything else, and an understanding and a filter for everything that they would be getting to their senses through media and through public school and all this stuff. And it made sense for me to be the person to do that. A, because my wife made a lot more money than I did working. B, being an ex-felon, the only time I got into decent jobs is when there was some sort of family friend helping out a friend and doing shit like that. Outside of that, it was typically warehouse work and construction work and shit like that, which is which isn't bad, but it wasn't making the money my wife was making in her field. So, and then on top of that, I'm the learned one here. She didn't fucking, well, she knows because of just through osmosis of being around me, but not enough to educate our children about kind of what's going on in this world, and what are these messages, and or even having the concern enough to find out what they were learning at school and to go deeper into and give different perspectives to certain instances of history that have certain sways to them in the public school. Try to give the full picture of that. So I was the best person suited for that, and that's always been my biggest fear, is having children and losing them to the system. So I know I can't brainwash them. That doesn't work. They'll always rebel against that. So I want to make them critically think. And I believe when they critically think, they will come to many of the conclusions I've come to. And if not, hopefully they took that process through critically thinking. And I don't think they'd be too far off from where I'm at. So that's been our approach with that. A couple of years ago, like the perfect job, I remember thinking this one night, and I was almost going to pursue, like, just do 2 days a week if I could find like a graveyard shift at a drive-through or something, just to get a little bit extra money, because it does get real tight when you do have one paycheck coming into the house. But so for that reason, I remember thinking it one night, and it was I was thinking like, oh, the perfect job would be a Friday night, Saturday night job, because typically my kids would go to my in-laws' house Friday evening and come back Sunday afternoon, and this is their time to spend time with their in-laws, who live a little further from us. So, and it's also time to give me and my wife a break from that as well. So I was thinking, well, this is the perfect days to work a job. And lo and behold, the universe lined that up perfectly for me. A great paying job. And I worked it for about 2 years. It was working on a party bus in Las Vegas. And it's, you get these people on this bus and you fill them with drinks. You take them to like 3 different clubs throughout the night. They go to one club and it's like a party bus. It's lights, strobe lights, all this shit, the music going on, and you're serving them. And it's you would have got paid 100 to show up. You're typically working 6 hours a night. You get paid 100 to show up, and tips would typically on average be around 100 to 150. So you're making around 250 a night, 2 nights a week, 6 hours work. That's, I mean, the work is pretty hectic, but it's just servicing and leading people, walking people in a line into clubs, then picking them up at certain times, getting them back on the bus, boozing them up again. Just total Las Vegas shit. But even that job, like I used to take this vapor pen with me, cannabis vapor pen with me to work. I would have to fucking puff that motherfucker nonstop for the 6 hours I was there just to get through the stuff. Like I'd have to be in a daze because I just couldn't deal with. I felt like I was being torn away at my soul every day I showed in, just because it was everything I hated about what Las Vegas represents and how people behave these days. And Las Vegas sells that. You know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, so people come to Vegas and they let their worst selves out. I mean, it was just the shit I was seeing was just disgusting. And then when you work service industry, especially with a bunch of drunk motherfuckers, you get you know, a lot of bad nights dealing with these people, working your ass off and then not getting any kind of tips and all this. And then, you know, that wears on you as well, too. And I got into a couple issues. And the reason I got this job, let me preface this all the way back, because it was lucrative, even though it has high turnover, is because my brother's friend started this company. So I got in like that. It was just like, yeah, get on in. There's no nothing and no drug test, no, oh, you're an ex-felon, none of this shit. It's like, boom, get on in and do your thing. And I did, but like I said, it was, I started getting in some trouble with them because I started getting bad reviews because, well, every now and then I would, because I would, I don't know, so how the night would end is you take them to their last club, and then you'd give your tip speech at this time. So you'd give your tip speech and they all come up and they tip you. And I got some great fucking stories about just people living up to their stereotypes. I would see it would confuse the fuck out of them. So I would shit on so many people during the tip speech or after the tips or after, because you gather them all up after the last tips and you say, hey, okay, let's get together. We're going to this last club. We're going to the Caesar's Palace, this club here, and boom, boom, follow me. And there's been times where I'd purposely lose them and they'd be all drunk wandering some hallway and I'd just hop onto the bus when it was like real bad nights. And then, of course, I'd give people the blues. And even a couple of them said, this dude's anti-Semite. Like, reviews, they left. He's like, he called us the Jews and shit like that. So, like, if I didn't have my brother's friend, like, running the company, I would have been fired a long time ago. But anyways, it was tearing away at me. So, even though the money was good, that was paying for my jiu-jitsu classes at the time too, so it was so valuable to me to continue this job. But like I said, it was tearing away at the soul. So I was like, fuck it. Even though this was the perfect situation, even though we do need the perfect or a little more income, that it just wasn't worth what the toll it was taking on me. And for that reason, I quit that. And I think that was about 3 years ago. And since then, it's just been like the sole focus has been, you know, my children, our house, and taking care of the things they need to do, their training, their both, you know, martial arts and musical training, mine as well. And, you know, focusing on that and kind of being the anchor of the family is much more rewarding. But eventually I'm going to have to go back into the workforce around the time my kids start to get preteen, teenager age. I'll probably need to jump back in there just to build up a little income for a while before I go on to other pursuits. So that's where I'm at now as far as work goes. It's been a couple years since I've had a job, and I'm not missing it at all. But, you know, in this materialist world where you live paycheck to paycheck, definitely extra income would help. So I will have to go back down that road eventually. And then next, why do I make videos? I guess I've been making videos since around 2006. I think 2006, 2007. Pretty sure 2006. And
let's speak on positive fascism and why I am a believer in positive fascism. Keep flagging my account. Listen to your death march.
like it initially started when I'd left the white nationalist scene in Las Vegas, because that used to be my whole social scene. And when I stepped away from that, I only kept in touch with two people after that, and one of them died not too long after that. So I had a lot of free time. So you get a lot of free time. I'd come home from work, and when you believe the things you believe, you got to vent these things. You have to have people you need to talk to. Everything you're seeing about, you need to release these things. So not having that anymore, I found that on the internet. I got on YouTube and I started getting into race debates about race realism with egalitarian people and all this, and especially Jewish question. I mean, that was the thing I really hammered, like from day one, was Jewish question, Jewish question, Jewish question. And, that was my wheelhouse essentially. So I started doing that, making videos on that, just because, mainly for a reason to vent. And then there's a secondary approach to where, to quote unquote awaken people. Then there's even a deeper layer where there has to be some sort of narcissism, some level of narcissism in you when you produce content, to think, okay, I should be heard, or I deserve to be heard, or anything like that. There's that level of that too. So all that has to exist in anyone making any kind of content, saying, well, I need to put out stuff out there because people aren't just hearing it right or seeing it right. So there's a little bit of all that. But that's when I initially got into making videos. Then around 2009, I took a break for a couple years. Just, I guess, resistance burnout. I just got fucking burnt out of it all, man, of everything, of the people I was meeting. A lot of the people I met from the internet were just shitty people, and I was just very disenfranchised. And I'd gotten very unhealthy physically and mentally. And I realized, like, because I would work 8 hours a day, then get on fucking the internet for another 8 hours after that, and be on either Skype with people, just circle jerking about all the same shit we'd complain about, or in some, whatever kind of voice chat room was created at the time, or making videos, creating videos. I started slowly learning how to create like videos I do now, but for the visual quality, people might bitch about the videos today. They're even worse, back then. So was spending all that time there, and I watched myself get fatter and fatter.
9/11. Do you guys care? Do you care? Do you even look into it? Not even, huh? You know this is a scary topic because people are turning down free DVDs of information. 9/11. Missing link. You want some, sir? Free.
Yeah.
I watched my relationship with my wife separate more and more, because I was kind of an absentee father and husband for a while, because I was in a very negative place, just obsessed with this message, and it was doing everything wrong. Like I never got into anything to be negative. I always viewed fascism as something positive. I always viewed speaking about reality, be it race, be it Jewish question, as positive things, as speaking about truth should be a positive, even when it's negative, should be a positive thing. But it had a negative effect on me because it was stuck in negativism, just bitching about everyone. You know, it's the same shit we see today. This is why I really speak against that, because I just see the same trends over and over again. But so I kind of realized I need to step away from this shit. And I did. I stepped away from it, and I started focusing on myself and my family, and fixing all of that. And I did, myself and my family, and bridged the gap between me and my wife, and became a lot more aware and involved, and with my children and myself especially became more, because we all have levels of hypocrisy to us for sure, but I was having heavy hypocrisy because I'm on the same theme I am right now as I was in 2006, right? But there was a lot of times where I was a lot fatter, where I was a lot more out of shape, and it's like, it's good if you know what's right and you could speak about these things, what's right, but then you're not living it yourself. There's just that contradiction and self-hate that grows from that.
Maybe you need to look in the mirror and fight that Jew you're looking at before you can fight the Jews that run society today. But they don't want to hear that talk, and that's why we will remain the docile creatures we are.
That I think took over in a lot of cases. So, and it's not only physical health, it's mental health, it's spiritual health, it's all of that. And I think I was at a low with all of that. Even though I thought I was in a right place bitching about the things I was bitching about. So I took the time to step away and focus on myself. And then as I did, that fire always comes back. You look around, where are the fascists at? They're not there. Shit, it's like, what? No one's even out there promoting this message as you should be promoted, in my opinion. So I'm like, fuck, okay, let's get back into this. Let's do it right this time. And that's what I feel I am doing now. And that's what, with like distancing myself from it, like allowing myself a certain amount of time to do these things, but realizing the more important things lie outside of virtual reality, that it's only a little bit important. I think the best thing that can come, people are always like, oh, go on Warskis, go on this. It's really, in the end, I think the best thing that can come out of the internet is if one of your videos can motivate someone in real life who's going to change the way, the course of society. I think outside of that, I don't see too much. Sure, that's great if you, I turn someone into a fascist who wasn't fascist, or give them a different impression or a different impression of it. But, what are they going to do? Now they're like me. They're stuck in this mist. Like, oh, what the fuck do we do now? We're powerless. We're separated. There's none of us, like, we don't exist. So what do we do? So I don't get too much. I realize the important things are out here. And so now, when I got caught in the web of virtual reality, thinking there's more importance on the internet stuff. And I think I was just lying to myself. I think I've always known that, but it was just kind of lying to myself, because it's an easy way to be active, right? It's an easy way to fight for what you believe in, is that. So it's either joining some internet party LARPing or being solely concerned about your appearance online. So I think I've balanced it out pretty good. So that's why I make videos, and that's my work situation. It's for all of those reasons. With the videos is, like I said, there's a certain amount of venting. There's a certain amount of wanting to educate. There's a certain amount of believing you have the quality to educate on these things. So that's why I make the videos. And why do I make these videos? I think these, which aren't promoted, which is always my personal opinions, I think these serve a purpose as far as in for the people who want to know more about the person promoting the content or putting forth the content on the Culture Thug account, who want to know more about the personality, that's there. Now it's more of a back and forth dialogue too, instead of just clicking on a video and you already have this setup message, this book breakdown that you're going to dive into. This one, there's a lot more interaction between people where there's questions and response, and it goes back and forth like that. I've always appreciated that. I love getting into good conversations with people about things. I think this is how we get the brain juices flowing. So I've always appreciated that. But like I said, it's like not anything I'd promote. The Culture Thug channel I'd always try to promote and get out there because I think the content on there is important and people can learn from it. But this is different. This is a little more personal. So that's why, to answer your questions, to bring it all the way back. That's why I do these things. And lastly, let me answer one question outside of personal disclosure questions. You once said that the fall of Europe will be worse than the fall of Rome and Greece were. So I ask you, do you think it's too late to save Europe? No, I don't think it's too late to save Europe. And I say that because the demographics right now. Do they have the will? Not enough of them, apparently. But we're starting to see some pushbacks, and we've always been seeing it, but they're gaining a little more traction now. Not as enough as you would want, but I guess it's better than nothing. But I think demographic-wise, they still have... I think this generation is going to sum everything up in America and in Europe. I think if things don't change within our lifetimes, it's game over. That's it.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we going to do now? What are we going to do?
I think for everyone. I think for America. I think for Europe. I think Europe still has the capability of becoming ethno-states because of their demographics there. It's still not too late for them, but will it happen? That's the question. I think if it goes beyond this generation of what's going on, I think it's pretty much over, because this is different from anything humanity has ever seen, at least that we've seen, because with mass transportation, with mass media, all these things, you can quickly change. Look at America. Look at America. How fast the demographics change from 90% white to whites becoming 50-50 within a 100-year period. Within 100, even less than 100-year period. And then becoming the minority. Matter of fact, in 100 years, whites will be the minority. This is how fast it's going. It's even going faster than it was from the 60s to the 2000s, right? It's accelerating now. So it has to change in this generation. Yes, if Europe is lost, it's fucking game over. That's it. That's all European subraces. And I don't view Europe blending amongst themselves of different breeds of white as any kind of victory either. That's still a destruction of these unique subraces and cultures. So, and that's not even going to happen. It's going to be mainly being outbred through non-white races in Europe. So, no, it has to change. It has to change in this generation, and hence why I always advocate being very pragmatic about the situation and taking pragmatic measures. I tire of these fucking... Speaking to white nationalists, you might as well be trying to be convincing Christians or any other religious people that whatever their afterlife is doesn't exist. It's the same with these kind of people, because they always have this, no, man, white people it's going to get so bad. We're just going to have to... Like, they have this religious view of everything. There's no amount of reason that can break through that. It's this faith, and you can't fight faith with reason. You can't do that. So it's the same mentality, but I view that as suicidal. That's why I take a pragmatic approach to my beliefs in this country and to how I conduct myself. So, yes, there is still time to save Europe, but it is in our generation. If we all at the age now, watching this grow old and die, and as we die, things are just accelerating. It's over. So yeah, it needs to change now. That's it for now. It's already 30 minutes into this thing, and I got a lot of questions. I'll get to them. Been super busy, man. I've had a lot of shit on my plate, and I will for the next couple months too. We're getting a lot of shit redone on the flooring in this house, and I'm helping the person doing it. So be a lot busy doing that, and on top of everything else. So we'll cut this short for now, but I do have a lot of questions, and I will get to them. You already know, if I hearted them, and that means I've copied and pasted them to my list, and I will get to them eventually. So until then, gentlemen, as always, cheers.